on top. So they're on top here and going through the ball instead of cutting, which, I mean, almost, there's a ton of kids I see that have that cement mixer spin, which, I mean, it slows down the ball, your ball cuts, it's bad for the elbow. I can relate because I had surgery on it. So this position on the side, you don't want to be in. I'll go back to the grip too. Part of the 3-finger versus 2-finger, if you see a kid who has small hands and they're throwing almost cutters, you might want to switch them to 3 for a second, or for a little while until they can show you they get that good backspin. So the next thing I look at, so I like to teach shoulder, hip, and heel going right through your target. So it's like we have a scope on our shoulder. We want to go right through our target. A lot of kids will start opening up, and I'll go over it more in the mechanics, but just playing catch, trying to lock that shoulder right through the target. We got a strong glove side. My hip, my heel are coming along with my shoulder, and then boom, I open up naturally, and I'm in this position to where I'm out over my front leg and through, instead of here, my head goes this way. It's called a head whack. We open up, the arm's dragging, and it puts all this pressure on the elbow, the shoulder, and the ball either goes up. It's at least getting to this point. So it doesn't have to be a perfect glove tuck. I'm down here, but we just don't want to have the glove just fall here to where we're all arm. It's almost like a windmill. So we get in this position, we rip through, and that arm just comes along for the ride. So real quick, a drill you could start with to make sure the kids are locked in on line and have their hand on top of the ball. If they just start like this, one knee down, a lot of kids will go this knee, but we want to have our right knee down, start in the glove, turned right to our target, hand comes out on top, hands break, pick it up off the shelf, on top here and through. One thing I see a lot of is from this point, the kids will drop their elbow and they'll throw underneath and push the ball. Velo goes down, elbow in a terrible position, and we can't get finish. So we really want to think about getting on top and finishing over the ball instead of underneath. So if you have a kid who's right here, cut all of this part out and just have them start here and finish instead of underneath. So it takes away that elbow and we just go on top. Any questions on that? Okay. Real quick, playing catch. So I'm a fan of long toss. So pitchers, this goes for pitchers, infielders, outfielders, catchers. They don't have to do real far long toss, but I would like to see them go past second base. So as they're warming up, if you have them start on one knee, nice and short, 10 feet, once they gradually move back to second base, once they're at second, have them move their feet and use the crow hop. Because once we're at a far distance, there's a lot of stress on the arm if we're not moving our feet. So move the feet, everything's on line, getting the extension out over that front leg. As we gradually move back, it's not straight on a line, we want to have a slight arc. So a lot of kids, when they move back, it's almost straight up. The problem with that is when we go straight up, we have a whole bunch of tilt and there's a whole bunch of external rotation on that shoulder and elbow. And that it puts a ton of stress. So we want to try to keep the shoulders square. There's going to be slight arc, but I'm still in a good position to where I can get on top and over my front leg. So gradually moving back, slow cooking the arm. So they start out at about 10 feet, nice and easy, gradually move back, slight arc. Once they're at their furthest point, so maybe 80 feet for little leaguers, from that point on, bring them in about 10 feet and use the pull down. So this is where they're going to gain arm speed, velocity, and that's where they create the angle down, and they're pulling down, working on that arm speed out front. And that goes for pitchers, infielders mostly, outfielders, they're getting that throw in, using that pull down. Okay, going.
Can I add one thing?
Yeah, sorry.
That's okay.
Yeah.
We do a camp every year, and so I realized that what he's talking about, it sounds like, oh, that'd be awesome if I could get my kid. You're lucky if you can get him to play catch up.
Let's go across, and that kind of creates that side spin, and it's bad for the shoulder. We want to try to get extension over this front leg and finishing, kind of just letting the arm naturally finish through. So Lincecum's dad used to put $1 on the ground and he would finish, boom, and pick it up. Not saying you have to do that, but that's kind of the idea. We want to be out front instead of across where we're cutting it off and it has that the slider spin. Is that?
Yep.
Okay.
And then foot position when you're done, throwing your back.
Yeah. When we throw, I like to have the leg back. Boom, and then it just comes through. So I teach pitchers to come through and finish the ball, and then they can come off slightly. A lot of kids will do this. Guy hits it up the middle, base hit every time. If they finish on line, boom, they're an infielder, they're ready. That's one less gap. So that's kind of what I teach. But any questions before I get into mechanics? Okay. So I like to teach. I know a lot of kids nowadays are doing the stretch. They're just starting from the stretch, which is fine if you want to just. I like to teach the wind up. So I go half on, half off the rubber. Okay. Don't have to be too close together or too wide. Half on, half off. I like to go 1, 2, 3 steps. So small step to the side. The reason we want to do small is because if I go too far, my head moves, I'm unbalanced off the rubber. The whole goal is to stay balanced over the rubber, right over your pivot foot. A lot of kids are pivoting on the rubber, which is pretty bad. They'll slip off, so make sure they're right against that rubber. Doesn't matter where they are. I teach the left side closest to first base for when they're older and they start picking off. They have that advantage of about 6 inches. So the first step would be a small step to the side, pivot, balanced over the rubber, right into the load. That's step 2. From this position, they're too open. Hitter sees the ball. If they swing their arm back too far, hitter sees the ball. I know it doesn't really matter for Little League, but as they move up, good hitters will pick up grips from behind, especially a changeup. Any questions on the windup? Okay, so stretch real quick.
Okay, I express in the windup. How fast do you have the kids sequence the windup? Do you have it like slow, or do you?
I mean, every kid's different. If going faster works for them and they're throwing strikes with good mechanics, I wouldn't touch them. But I personally believe in a little bit slower, in control mechanics. From the stretch, same thing. Make sure their foot's against the rubber and not on top. Getting the sign, I like ball in hand. Getting the sign, you don't have to check the runner because they're not picking off. Make sure they come set just so they know this for pony. A lot of kids get the sign and then they start, which when they get to pony is going to be a balk every time, and they'll need to learn eventually. So just make sure they come set, boom, and then it's right back to the leg, fall through, straight on line. One other drill that can help keep your pitcher right through home plate and throw through the glove. If you have them start in this position and go straight down that line, so it kind of cuts out the momentum for a second, gets them to this position. You say up, they hold. You say go, they drive right down, and they're locked on. It's a good way to get everything going through home plate.
One thing I wanted to add, Ricky reminded me when he was talking about playing catch. My dad actually did coach my brothers in the league when they were 12, and they played the 30-second drill. Do you guys know that drill, the 30-second drill? It's awesome. You remember that talented club, like Javier's and the AKs and the GJ? So I had them for a travel ball team a couple years, maybe a year after they left playing here, and they